Mixed Race Final, Connecting the Idea of Radical Love to the Multiracial Asian Community. The first reading included in this project is Indian Blood, HIV and Colonial Trauma in San Francisco's Two-Spirit Community by Andrew Jolivette. The concept focused on for this project is radical love. Jolivette defines radical love as a mythology for engaging with our own vulnerabilities and mental health struggles. It insists that only when we become vulnerable and open up our hearts to our pain can we truly begin to heal, to sow growth where trauma once stood. Radical love does not only involve self-acceptance, but garnering support from others to be at peace with one's true self. The second reading included in this project is Multiracial Americans and Social Class, The Influence of Social Class on Racial Identity by Kathleen Odell Korgen. This reading discusses how, for the first time in the 2000 census, people were given the opportunity to select more than one race to describe their racial identity. The main focus of the reading is to analyze the results of the 2000 census, in which Asians are the most likely minority to marry interracially, and how these Asians who marry people who are white have a higher class status and have acquired more education than Asians who have married an African American or Hispanic individual. I agree with the reading in that I am provided with a full overview as to why Asian Americans who are partially white tend to have the highest social class attainment, but I disagree with the author not providing more information on the successes of Asian African Americans and Asian Hispanics. Interview questions. 1. How do you racially identify? 2. Do people assume your race? What do they think your race is? 3. Have you ever discussed your multiracial identity like how we are doing now? 4. Have you ever been asked, what are you? 5. Has someone been shocked by your race or not believe you when you tell them what your race is? 6. What is it like to be half Asian? 7. Do you identify more with your Asian or non-Asian side? 8. Do you ever compartmentalize your life because of your multiracial identity? 9. What are your thoughts on the concept of radical love? 10. If you were filling out the census prior to 2000 and were forced to select one race for your racial identity, which would you select and why? 11. Do you agree that Asians who marry a white individual are of a higher social status?
Oh. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Marian.
This is my friend Sarah. Oh. How do you racially identify?
I identify as mixed race, so half Filipino and half Cameroonian.
Do people assume your race? What do they think your race is?
Most people think I'm just black, or sometimes they think I'm Samoan or Ethiopian.
Very cool. Okay. Have you ever discussed your multiracial identity like how we're doing now?
Not really.
Okay,
I don't
good.
really have as much mixed friends, so it never got brought up.
Okay, have you ever been asked, what are you? And how does it make you feel when people ask you, what are you?
Yeah, I get asked, what are you a lot when I first meet someone? Because they're like, oh, you look Asian, but we're not sure if you are because your eyes or your nose looks like it, but we're not sure what Asian you are. And so I guess I feel kind of cool in that, like, no one can guess what I am, but at the same time, I just could know, like, yeah, exactly.
Got it. Yeah, same here. Okay, has someone been shocked by your race or not believe you when you tell them what your race is?
Yeah, a lot of Asians who aren't Filipino get really shocked when I say I'm Asian or like half Asian, and they're like, "Whoa, like what?" And I'm like, "Oh, Filipino though," but they're like, "Oh, that's not really Asian."
That is so rude. Like, do you feel offended, or like do you like understand, like, oh, they
Yeah,
probably.
I feel offended because I think Filipinos are Asian,
Yeah.
but to them they're like they don't think they are
Yeah,
because they're
that's
separated
yeah.
from like
That's
the
messed
islands.
up. Okay, so what is it like to be half Asian?
um, I like it a lot, and I feel like for me, like being half Filipino, it's cool in that I feel more close to my family, and that way I just feel a more better sense of belonging being half Filipino, and it's a nice
How
feeling.
does it feel to be half Cameroonian?
I think it's cool because for me, like being half Cameroonian, I was able to learn French, and I learned that from my dad's side, which is something I probably wouldn't have known if I wasn't connected with being Cameroonian. Food, and so I have like two different cultures that I can identify with and that I can learn from all the time.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is good. Okay, so do you identify more with your Asian or your non-Asian side more?
I think I identify more with my Asian side just because it was church. Predominantly, there are a lot of Asians, specifically Filipinos, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to explore my Cameroonian
Mm-hmm.
side. But since I've been more close with my family that's Filipino, I do identify more since I
Mm-hmm.
know more about the culture.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever compartmentalize your life because of your multiracial identity? Like, do you sometimes act more Asian in some settings, and then other settings you don't act as Asian?
Uh, for me, I think I act like when I'm with my friends, I'm more black or like more
I
Cameroonian
know.
in a way. Because I mean, because youth culture in America is more like we act in what we call ratchet or
Mm-hmm.
ghetto. So for me, I find it that side out of me more when I'm with my friends. But
Mm-hmm.
being Asian, I guess the stereotype is that they're smart or like timid, and I guess that's true. But I do identify with that, and that I am very shy when you first meet me, and I am very into school. But I I don't attribute to like both sides.
So for my project, my professor, he's also mixed race, and he talks about the idea of radical love because he worked with. Do you know what the Two Spirit community, the Native Americans, like
No.
basically like they're in their culture they two spirited, like you're neither a man or a woman, but basically like his the idea of radical love is it's a critical intervention. It asserts that without a process of mutual love, respect, and responsibility, we can never truly heal or achieve self-determination. So it's basically accepting your whole self and having that support. How do you feel about accepting all sides of you racially, I guess,
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that because I think it's important to support yourself as a whole as a mixed race person because I don't think it's right to neglect like one part of your identity and then only identify with one when really you have all different parts within you. And I think you should be like someone who's mixed race should be very proud because it's very unique to be mixed race. You can grow as an individual that way.
So in the in this reading, it compared like this because in the 2000 census, that's when people were able to start identifying like uh as a
And more.
multiracial. Prior to that, you could only choose one. So if you only had
Yeah.
one choice, which racial category would you mark off if you were only told to choose one? Okay, for me, for example, when I was a kid, I would only put white because my friends were telling me that since like I thought since it matches my last name, and I thought people would think that I was lying if I was Filipino, even though I look Filipino. But then I was thinking that they grade Asians harder or something. I'm totally whack. So then I would have to what is it called? I would just choose white because they would go easy on white people. So that is so dumb. But that's what I did when I was a kid. Because you could only choose one, right? Like you can only feel in one bubble. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, like, growing up, like, especially for high school, for college stuff, I would pick, there was only one option, I would pick black. And I guess it's because, like, affirmative action and all that stuff, everyone was like, yeah, if you put black, then you have a higher chance of getting in. And so I was like, I guess so, I guess. And then Filipinos are listed under Asian, so they're like, yeah, that wouldn't help you at all if you put Filipino.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, I put black just for not reason, just because people are like, oh, there's the 1% rule in America where it's like if you're 1% black, you're
like the
one,
one
yeah,
job.
you're automatically black. So yeah, I would put that.
Girl, nothing wrong with okay. And then because I wrote a paper on this chapter, it's about multiracial Americans and social class, and it was basically saying that Asians that marry I disagreed with it, by the way, but Asians that marry a white person, they are of a higher social class. Can you like react? Like, do you think it's true?
Just people might think that because obviously like white privilege and stuff like that. But no, I don't think it's true. I don't think that should matter whether who you marry, like, and like even if they're from a different race. I don't think that should determine someone's class because that's offending other races, other ethnicities, and I feel like every like even interracial marriage should be seen as the same level as like saying if someone is marrying someone of the same ethnicity.
And I disagree because like, and she didn't provide ample evidence as to why white people have a higher social class. Like she didn't provide like any numbers or whatever. So yeah, I said I disagree.
So can you say your name and how you racially identify?
I'm Juliana. I'm half El Salvadorian and half Filipino.
Okay. So, do people assume your race, and what do they think your race is?
Well, usually when I ask people, like, oh, what do you think I am? They're like, oh, I don't know. Because sometimes people don't think I look like anything. Like, they can't tell what I look like. But I do get occasional, like, either, like, Mexican or Filipino. Like, there are occasions where I get, like, just one of them. Like, I never get, like, people don't assume that I could be, like, a mixed race. Yeah.
So has anyone ever asked, like, what are you? And are you offended if people ask, what are you?
Yeah, I get that all the time. Like, because I feel like sometimes I don't even know what I look like. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just like a person. I don't get offended though. You know, it's pretty cool to like let them know, like, oh, I'm actually like half a Salvadorian and half Filipino, because not a lot of people know a lot of Salvadorians. So they like get fascinated over it. It's just like out of curiosity. It's not like they're like meaning to offend me or anything. So I don't get offended over that.
Cool. And have you ever discussed your multiracial identity, like how we're doing now? Like, have you ever like discussed it in depth?
I haven't really, just because I haven't, like, you know, it's not so much of a concern or like an issue to like other people. So like there hasn't really been a time when I had like I'd have to talk about like my mixed race and things like that. So,
yeah, like I took this class. I didn't even know like mixed race studies was a thing. So that's why,
But I do know that there's like a lot of issues, like over the SATs and things like that. That like people are getting kind of mad that like a mixed race isn't like part of it.
We get into that. Okay. Has someone been shocked by your race or not believe you when you tell them what your race is?
Oh yeah, like definitely. There's always people who are like, oh, what the heck? Well, I feel like they're more shocked and like, oh, that's like so interesting that you're like Salvadorian and Filipino, but it's not like anything negative, like, oh, like, you don't even look like that, like, what the heck, but it's more of like like, that's so cool, like, I didn't know that you were, like, half Filipino, half Salvadorian.
So it's, like, mostly a positive
it's
reaction.
always, for the most of it.
What is it like to be half Asian?
Being, you know, I get to experience going to, like, Filipino parties and things like that. You know, it's, like, it's really cool, too, because you get a lot of benefits that, you know, other people can't, like, get, especially if you're, like, a mixed race.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, like, getting to experience, like, the Asian culture, like, mostly, like, the Filipino culture, you get to experience that type of thing while having the opportunity to experience another different type of culture.
So, segue, what is it like to be half Salvadorian?
It's cool. It's really fun. You get to kind of, like, compare and contrast the differences between, like, those, types of cultures. You can see the similarities and the differences between them, and it's really fascinating because you're just like, oh wow, that I didn't know that they had that in common, or like, oh, I didn't know that was different from like them. So it's being able to experience like the differences between two different cultures and being able to participate in both of them. It's like it's really interesting.
So you're like, so you identify as not compartmentalizing, like you find yourself as a whole.
Yeah.
You're being half. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Okay, so do you identify with your Asian or your non-Asian side more?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I feel like I'm more of like in the middle because I'm always like surrounded by Filipinos because we go to a church that's like predominantly like Filipino.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, I'm always surrounded by that type of culture, but then I am also like pretty familiar with the, you know, Hispanic culture that I'm like also a part of. You know, I like have like a same level of knowledge of like the language and like the culture compared to, for both of like the different cultures and things like that. So I feel like I'm like more in the middle when it comes to like being where I'm placed at.
And do you ever like do code switching, like when you're with your when you're around Filipinos, you act differently around when you're around people that are like from El Salvador?
Ooh. Okay, so yeah, you know, it's more of just like the like talking to them. I do like I kind of speak in like broken language with them. Like if I'm like Filipinos, then I'll speak like Tagalog and English, but it's like really ugly. So like, and then I do the same for like Hispanics, especially if it's like about like something like in particular about like someone, and then like I'll like switch it so like it's just like between us.
Like at amusement parks, like when you're in line.
Yeah.
You want to talk about people? Yeah.
Like what's it called? But other than that, I feel like I'm pretty much like the same when it comes to like being in different cultures. Of course, there are things in like the Filipino culture that you don't do in like a Salvadorian culture and vice versa. So like it'd be weird to like bless a Hispanic person, but then in the Filipino culture they expect that.
It's like respect.
And like it's more, you know, it's a like, but there are like things that do tie in that together. Like they are really big on like family and like family parties and things like that. You know, bringing the family closer. It's like a really big like key in like both of the cultures, which is fun. It's really nice.
Good. Okay, so my teacher, he wrote a book and he talks about radical love, how in order for yourself to fully accept who you are, you have to have that support around you, and you have to like believe like you shouldn't just choose one portion of your identity, but you should accept it as a whole. So like, can you tell me like how you feel about that, like the idea of radical love?
Oh, I completely agree with him, because like you're not yourself if you don't know who you are. So if you don't know like your background and like your history on yourself, then like, you know, you're kind of not yourself because you don't know. So like once you like realize who you are and you like accept it and you love it, like then that's you, like, and it shows like your confidence, and it'll show. And it like once you're able to fully express yourself, once you really know yourself, you can really like show like, that is me, and like I do love every single part about me, and it's like a really good like confidence booster also. Like once you like finally like realize like I think you do you really do like, you appreciate it more too. You appreciate like yourself and like your background and everyone around you too.
And last portion. So in the 2000 census, that was the first time where people were given the option to choose more than one race. So prior to the 2000 census, you're only allowed to choose one. So say you're filling out the 2000 census, or no, say you're filling out the census before 2000, and you had to choose one. Which one? Like, what would you put?
I would put the more, like, I feel like it would just depend on, like, where I was, like, living at that time. I would put the more, like, uncommon, like, culture. Like, if I lived in, you know, an area that was, like, more Hispanics, I would put the Filipino, just to make the
like vice versa.
Yeah. Or like, vice versa. Just because, like, it's just to stand out a little bit more. Like, you know, there is that type of culture in this area too. Like, it's not just like like
to represent like the minority.
Exactly. So it's just like, it's to like show that there are like other cultures compared. I mean, besides like just this one culture that's like presented and represented in this area.
And okay, last question. So, because there was another reading in our class, it was about the results of the 2000 census, and it was saying how of Asians who married white people were of a higher status in life. Like, do you agree with that, or do you not? Like, I said I don't agree with it, because like, just because you marry into one race doesn't automatically assume that you're of a higher status.
I don't agree like that. Like, that should really be like a thing. But I feel like in like society, how like it is and how it's like how like society represents itself, I feel like it does happen. Like, they just like assume like, oh, if I like, you know, that's why you know, there are sometimes like arranged marriages when it's like, oh, you need to marry into this because like this will happen. So I mean, I do think it's around, but I don't like agree that it should happen. So like it happens. But it's something that like,
but it's not like the standard.
It's not. Exactly. It's not. It shouldn't happen.
The reason I did a project concerning multiracial Asians is because I myself am multiracial. I'm a multiracial Asian, and I never really discussed my multiracial identity before taking this class, and I'm so glad that I took this class, because I feel like I express who I am more, not only racially, but I've learned how to accept myself as a whole. For example, I was born with a vascular birthmark, and I never really discussed it ever growing up. Really, I would only discuss it if someone would ask me about my birthmark, but I never really like brought it up. But ever since my senior year, I decided that my career goal is to become a pediatric dermatologist to help children who have vascular birthmarks. And in order to do this, I realized that I have to accept who I am. I have to accept that I was born with a birthmark, and that it's fine, because it has led me to so many opportunities to actually help children who have vascular birthmarks. I was able to do some speaking engagements and be connected with foundations who help children. So if I wasn't able to fully accept who I was, and I wouldn't be able to experience these opportunities and find my purpose in life. And during my final project, I also wanted to let my friends discuss their multiracial identity, because I realized if I didn't discuss it, I kind of feel like they didn't either, because we kind of, we're always in the same environment. We go to the same church, and we're predominantly around Filipinos, so we don't really, and I felt that I was more connected to my Filipino side, and I'm glad I was able to interview my friends and be able to reflect the half Asian aspect of the multiracial Asians chapter in one of our readings, because I was able to relate to my friends about how we originally identify as mixed race Asians, and I didn't know that we had similar experiences, and I wouldn't have known this unless I did this project. Like, I'm wearing my multiracial club shirt from high school, but I only joined that because all my Asian friends were doing it, and there was no white person in the club. It was all like Asians and like different backgrounds, and um, I'm glad that now I'm able to, I guess, identify more with being Filipino and being white. I wanted to discuss with them the idea of radical love, and I wanted to show them that I'm supporting them as they're also multiracial, and I'm a part of that support group to help to support them in fully accepting who they are. And interviewing my friends, they told me that you cannot be your true self unless you accept every single part of your identity, and that really hit home for me, not only racially but also this how I have a vascular birthmark and never really disclosed any of it. So I it was International Vascular Birthmark Day on May 15, and I posted an Instagram post about it, a picture from when I was a baby to now, and I discussed my story, and I attached a video concerning my journey and my career goals. I didn't realize how many people would support me. Like there's a lot of comments talking about how I inspire people, and I'm so glad that I did that, and I'm so glad that I'm finally fully respecting myself, and I'm glad that I experienced the true definition of radical love, because I have the support of others. I wouldn't be able to be where I am without the support of others. And I really feel like that's what radical love is all about. There's quotes of radical love that really stood out to me. So radical love should ask how the work in which we are engaged helps to build respectful relationships between ourselves and others involved in a social justice movement. And radical love is so important in knowing your true identity, because it does not only involve how you feel about yourself, but it also involves how others treat you and how others support you. And if you have that support in your environment, then that is truly experiencing radical love. Radical love asks if we are each being responsible in fulfilling our individual roles and obligations to the other participants in the struggle for social justice and human rights. Finally, radical love is in critical mixed race studies means asking ourselves if what we are contributing is giving back to the community, and if it is strengthening the relationship of all of those involved in the process. Is what is being shared added to the growth of the community, and is this sharing reciprocal? Is what we are working towards leading to a more peaceful and equitable society? So that quote from the Indian Blood book encompasses why I did this final project, interviewing my multiracial friends who are either half Black or half Hispanic, because I wanted them to know that I'm supporting them, and I wanted to contribute to society to help others in fully accepting who they are. And I didn't realize that I would fully accept who I was doing this project. The author of the Indian Blood book inspired me to continue on with my career goal of being of help to those born with vascular birthmarks, because I was also born with a vascular birthmark, and I realized that if I share my experiences, that this will inspire others, and it'll help them if they were born with a vascular birthmark, or if they're a family impacted by a vascular birthmark. And I would like to quote something that he says, if you've never known someone living with AIDS, now you do. You know my story, and in sharing it, I hope that others will know that they can live with this. His mindset of disclosing his story of sharing a personal experience of having AIDS has been able to help so many people, and I want to do the same with people who have vascular birthmarks. So I'm very thankful that I took this class, because I was able to fully accept myself, not only racially, but also fully accept and understand that it's okay to be different, and it's okay to have these different aspects of us in our lives, because we are able to use it to help others. A powerful quote about radical love is, "It is about working with, not on, research participants to weave a narrative." And I truly think that this is the true basis of the ceremony that was done during the study for the book, because it's not mere research to collect data, but it's a healing process for the two-spirited community and everyone involved. So in terms of my own intellectual understanding, I realized that when you work with people with the goal of being healed, you have to work with them and not treat them as experiment cases. And I will carry this idea of radical love for the rest of my life, because if I want to help treat people who have vascular birthmarks, I need to treat them in a humanistic manner and not just put them down as quantitative data. I want them to heal in the process, and I want to take into account the experiences of each individual and having them feel that they belong.